Abraham's secret.
Abraham, as you always do, you set this perfectly up at the perfect timing. I want to talk to you about co-creation, and your little playful, the dog you won't buy you, has set this up in another way. So I want to talk to you also about co-creation with the family. And I am the mother of a son who is 21 months old, and he's beautiful and smart and curious and so much fun. And just a week ago, actually, this morning, a week ago today, my husband and my son and I were at a coffee shop, and we were waiting for our food out in the patio. And as toddlers often do, he wanted to go exploring around, and so my husband got up to walk around with him. And I was kind of around the corner, and I kind of had this impulse to go look at some different seats, and I moved around, and right at that moment, a dog bit my son's forehead. And of course, screaming, and all I could do in the moment was I just clearly, felt that I called someone to call 911. I knew just to grab him and compress him, and he was okay. He's okay right now. He's still beautiful. My question is, everything is actually okay right now, and I feel a lot more ready to receive whatever you're going to tell me about this. But how did he, at 21 months, attract that situation? And, I get that my husband and I have suffered more than he has, even though he was the one that got this pain. But how does a young child like that get this attraction?
You all come to have experiences, because words don't teach, life teaches. Experiences teach. Mm-hmm. You want it to be bigger than that? What's bigger than that? You want to know about your power of influence. You want to know if your worry about things like that influences it to some degree, but you don't create in anyone else's reality. But you're opening up a conversation that really matters here. So let's just have fun with this conversation. We've been talking about law of attraction more than a normal amount here, as we've been talking about physics and that sort of thing. Now let's talk about law of attraction in terms of the thought paths that law of attraction travels through, you might say. Just hold the thought for a moment that whenever you think a thought, whatever it is, that thought actually does carve out a path between you and the subject of that thought. It just does. So let's say that you are aware that there are dogs around, and you to some degree worry about dogs, and maybe even dogs are in places that you'd rather that they not be. And every time you think that thought, well, let's start with a better analogy. So a woman related to us many years ago, Abraham, I'm driving down the freeway and I'm thinking good thoughts. In fact, she said, I was listening to your recording. And I was pulled over by a policeman and given a ticket. So what's up with that? And we said, well, law of attraction is working. But Abraham, I was thinking good thoughts. I was feeling good. So how is it that I could attract something? And we said, well, what did you get the ticket for? And she said, not wearing my seatbelt. No, she said, not wearing my seatbelt. Not wearing my seatbelt. Not wearing my seatbelt. I said, how do you feel about seatbelts? I don't think I should have to wear a seatbelt. I don't think it's anybody's business whether I wear a seatbelt or not. I think that if I don't want to wear a seatbelt, I shouldn't have to wear a seatbelt. I don't think there should be a law about not wearing a seatbelt. So we said, well, you see, you're driving down the road emanating a signal that says, I don't wear my seatbelt. I don't believe I should have to wear my seatbelt. I don't want to wear my seatbelt. And there are policemen trolling for revenue all around you, looking for justification to collect something from you. And she was satisfied with that answer after 30 minutes of discussion. But if she were sitting here today, we would use some more expanded words. We would say, every time you resented buckling up, you sent a thought path. You created a path through which you could rendezvous with something that matched that thought. So that means whenever you think about these things, some years ago, Jerry and Esther were in Buffalo, New York, the day before a seminar, and on the television, the newscast is doing a special report about a school who has this wonderful program where they've involved the entire student body and the student body's parents as well. And it's about not driving drunk. And the field house, they had towed in all kinds of wrecked vehicles that had blood still on the dashboard and windows still broken. They'd brought them in from the junkyards. And everyone was assigned a role in the week-long drama. You died in a crash. You survived it, but you'll never walk again. And the parents were even involved. Your child died. You'll be creating a funeral. Others will come. They really took it to a great extent because they really believed that if they got the attention of people and made them think very clearly about what they did not want, that it would influence the behavior of the students and they would be less likely to drive under the influence. And as Jerry and Esther were watching it, Jerry asked us, what do you think about this? And what we think about it is there were a lot of people carving a lot of pathways to a lot of things that they do not want. There were a lot of people setting themselves up for experiences. And we acknowledge these are not the first thoughts that they'd been carving. It's a natural thing to be a parent and really desire the well-being of your child. But what this gives you an opportunity to do really early on in this little one's life experience is to understand thought paths. And here was something, he wasn't in a great deal of pain. He was more scared than anything. It didn't do any lasting damage. There's not going to be any scars that are really problematic. This was a wonderful experience for you to decide what kind of pathways you want to start carving out. Not in a blameful way, taking responsibilities for that, because that's not how that happened. That happened because this little guy wants some experiences so that he can establish his co-creative relationship with you early on. That's the agreement that you had before any of you even got here. Let's get this figured out early, Mom. I don't want you in my way. I don't want you worried about me. I don't want you hounding me. I'm going to create my own reality. I'm going to do just fine. And I'm going to have bumps along the way that are going to serve me extremely well. And you too, you see. That's what it's about.
That night, I was trying to soothe my husband too because he was the one that was with him at the time. And
oh yeah, then those thought paths go further. You should have been watching. You should have been more aware. What were you thinking? More destructive thought pathways.
Right.
Yeah.
I was still kind of in a...
You see, what you want to say to him, and you may really believe it, but it isn't true. What you want to say is, if I had been with him, that would not have happened.
There's a part of me.
That's what you want to say, which gives a whole lot of meaning with it. But that's not the case, because the point of attraction for all of you to have this early experience of co-creation was powerfully wanted. So give your husband a break.
I definitely am. Is there other, do you have any other inspiration or advice as far to help him? Because I feel like he has suffered the most in this whole thing, and he's pretty hard on himself. I'm trying to tell a better story about that. But
well, you could hit it hard, get used to it. He's going to skin his knees, and he's going to bump things, and he's going to come into his own through the life that he's going to live. And we are not going to put a protective bubble around him to prevent him from filling his vortex up with all kinds of good stuff. Instead, we're going to hold this clear thought that he's going to thrive, and that through life experience that he's going to develop even more and more and more desires, and that he's going to be clear-minded. But we are not going to hover over him. We're not going to create his reality for him. We're not going to give him the impression that he is not safe, or that he is puny, or that he needs to be guarded, or that he is vulnerable. Because none of that is true. And you know it isn't true because of the way you feel when you think those thoughts. Those thoughts feel terrible because your inner being isn't thinking them. Yeah. So what a wonderful dog came along. This is a dog that doesn't usually bite. This is a dog that does not bite. This is a dog that does not bite unless the occasion is just right. And the doggy won't bite you, and the doggy won't bite you, and the doggy won't bite you. But the doggy will bite you because this is the agreement that we've got.